Today on Locked On Red Wings, are the D-pairs finally shaking out? Previewing the game against the Pittsburgh Penguins.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And on today's episode, guys, we're going to talk about, well, the fact that the D pairings finally look like they might be shaken out here, at least temporarily here in the early season, with Gostisbehere and Maatta really solidifying themselves the last two games as pretty dang good defensive pair, and the data backs that one up. Small sample size, but still going forward, you ride that hand. And then also we're going to preview the game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that those G pairs play into it because Lalonde wants to get Petry back in, and now you got to have a conversation about who the heck you're going to scratch. But first, got to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I got to stop real quick before we get any further, though, and say hello to Scotty, because I don't want to get 5 minutes in before I say anything to him. He gets offended when I do that. You guys don't see it. When we stop recording, he like throws fits. He's like, dude, you forgot to talk to me again. He throws all those expletives my way. It's just not fun.
I'm really I'm one of those guys that like behind the scenes, just total diva, just, really causing problems, tough to work with.
Major egomaniac, this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
on air, we make it work.
Just, we got to bring the show to you guys any way possible.
Yeah.
It really shows our dedication to you guys.
Really good actors.
So, Scotty, the Red Wings practice today or yesterday, by the time people are listening to this, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that the practice line stayed the same. Robby Fabbri is going to remain day to day. Now they're hoping he returns for the game on Saturday against the Ottawa Senators in Ottawa. I mean, is there anything to make of Fabbri still being out, or is this just like the Robby Fabbri experience?
Yeah, It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Like all week, it's been, he'll be back by Wednesday. He's just, day to day, he'll be back Wednesday, no biggie. And then now it's the can is getting kicked down the road again, and I'm sure he's frustrated as well. The dude just wants to be out there and be on the ice. But I think we have no reason to believe that it is like anything more than what they say and that he truly is day to day. I'm going to take their word for it until, otherwise, which maybe is dumb on my part. But I am now expecting him to play on Saturday.
Oh, well, and that's all we can do is just hope that they're correct and they're not lying to us about. I don't think they would either. I think if it's day to day, it's day to day. But just everything, all the history that Robby Fabbri has, every time he's out with an injury, you're like, here we go. And this is the second time he's been out with the injury. Once before the season even started. During the preseason, he was day to day once. So I feel for the guy because he can't catch a break. But you know what? If you're looking at a silver lining, is the lines without him looked really, really good in the game against Tampa and the game against Columbus, and they're rolling with those same lines. Obviously, the top line has been clicking, but that line of not Perron, is it Rasmussen, Comfer, and Kopp looked really good, and then Sprong, Veleno, and Perron looked solid as well. Veleno really stepping up in that 3C role, and then on top of that, to finish it off, that fourth line has a lot of that physical mentality. They don't play a lot of minutes, but
all dogs are on this mug on that fourth line,
absolutely, baby. With Christian Fischer and Klim Kostin on the wings with Austin Czarnik centering. So it sucks that Robby Fabbri's still hurt, but I mean, if the lines that are being played in his absence are just absolutely killing it, then I guess that's one hell of a silver lining to have.
Yeah, for sure. And this is why depth is so important. And this is why, the conversation in the summer when we signed all these free agents was about depth, right? Like they didn't go out there and get anybody that's going to be, obviously eventually they traded for DeBrincat, but during the free agency period, it was just signing of a lot of middle six type of players. And this is why, because now you can, plug and play and you can fill holes when day-to-day injuries like that happen. And here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. But the main point I wanted to get to in this episode had to do with defense. I know tried to talk about everything in the game against Columbus, but one aspect I feel like we maybe neglect, even though I play defense in men's league, it's always you want to talk about the flashy stuff, and the forwards usually provide the flash. Goalies are easy to talk about. Defense is harder to talk about because the defense, on a lot of occasions, unless you're Shane Gostisbehere, don't do a lot of sexy plays. So I wanted to talk today about the defense in yesterday's game, as well as like the D pairs in tomorrow's game, which will lead us into our game preview against the Pittsburgh Penguins, because of the fact that Derek Lalonde said in the press conference in his media availability after practice today, or yesterday by the time you're listening to this, that he wants Jeff Petry to play in the game. And Jeff Petry obviously was a scratch against Columbus. And it's getting a little bit harder now, in my opinion, to dictate who's going to be that scratch. Early in the season, in the preseason, we were talking about Maatta was the obvious choice. Not the easy choice. I don't think there really is an easy choice for a healthy scratch on this defensive core because you have a lot of actual NHL defensemen now. You don't have like guys who are fringe NHLers, AHL guys filling in that 7th and 6th D role. But also you have a lot of guys making a lot of money. So every time you healthy scratch a guy making $2 million, doesn't really affect the Red Wings like actual cap or anything. It's more like you always hate to just see a guy getting paid $2+ million up in the press box. But with how good Shane Gostisbehere and Maatta are playing right now as a pair in the last 2 games, which I'll get to in a minute, the advanced metrics, it's hard to justify scratching either one of those. You're not going to scratch Maatta or Jake Wallman or Moritz Seider. So then who do you scratch? Justin Hall's been scratched once already. Jeff Petry, is going to come in the game. Do you scratch Sherratt or do you scratch Hall? That's really what it comes down to, in my opinion, at least for this conversation. I mean, if you want to make a case for Maatta or Gostisbehere, I know you won't make a case for Gostisbehere, but for Maatta, like, go ahead. But I think it's getting tighter, and I think we're starting to see the D pair shake out.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think it's interesting to talk about this in short term and long term because like we discussed it a lot leading up to the season about like the long term, who's going to get the scratch most nights, and as we got closer and closer to the season, that became more and more of like I think it's going to be kind of a revolving door type of thing, and clearly it is. I mean, 11-7, they clearly don't have any fear of doing. So, like, that's also a very real possibility, really, on any given night, in my eyes. For Lalonde, clearly that doesn't bother him at all. So that's kind of in the back of your head. But if someone was to get scratched long term, I keep going back to, a lot of people keep trying to say like Sherratt, maybe he's going to get scratched more. Like it's just optically, I feel like, and not that this really matters as far as on the ice goes, but it's weird for me optically to consistently scratch the defenseman getting paid the most on your team. Like I just don't feel like that's going to happen, at least early on in the season. If the hand is forced, then like the hand is forced and you got to do what you got to do. But I don't see that happening anytime. Like it might happen once or twice, but I mean on a consistent basis, right? I don't see that being like the consistent option really going forward. I do still think there's a chance for Maatta. I didn't really mind how Ghost played with Hall either. So I don't know, maybe they really liked what they saw from him and Maatta. Obviously, if that keeps going forward, I'm not going to complain about it, but I didn't mind what they did together. I think on opening night they were together either. But I think if I had to say right now, I would probably go Hall. They probably just go back there, right? And they just have they seem to really like Sherratt and Petry together. They have experience together, etc. Ghost, like you just alluded to, Ghost and Maatta played really well together last game, and then you're not going to shake the top pair. So yeah, I guess I'm kind of with you on Hall, but I don't think that they're just looking at, the third game of the season that went really well, and they're like, oh, well, we can't separate Maatta and Ghost now the rest of the year. Like, I think that that's still very much on the table too.
So I have quite a bit to rebuttal, actually, based on what you just said. But we should get to a break first and talk about eBay Motors and Game Time. And when we come back for segment 2, I will talk to you guys about my thoughts on it, because it actually differs a little bit from Scotty's, which doesn't happen very often. Usually he just copies me. He's a big copycat. That's what happens when you let him talk first. So I talk to you guys today about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your card into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Also got to talk to you guys today about Game Time. Guys, if you're tired of all the obnoxious fees, when you try to buy a couple Red Wings tickets, the next thing you know, it's costing double, triple what it said it was going to cost you, because there's service fees, there's taxes, there's convenience fees, all these different fees that rack up the bill, then you got to check out Game Time. It's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And all-in prices show you your total up front, so you know what you're getting without hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, hockey, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you pick up the section, and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Guaranteed. All right, Scotty, you mentioned a lot of thoughts that you had on who could be scratched. So first off, with Olli Maatta, you're right in that I don't think that 2 games is enough to solidify Olli Maatta and Shane Gostisbehere as like immune from being healthy scratched. But I think if you're Derek Lalonde looking at this team that just played 2 really, really good games, and that pair was a big part of the good games that this team had, I don't think you break them up right now. I think it's a lot like we saw with Phil Pronik and Maatta last season, in that Maatta, as a defensive style defenseman, provides a safety net for an offensive style defenseman like Gostisbehere to take risks, and also, keeps that balance going. Not that Gostisbehere's been bad defensively by any stretch of the imagination. He made 2 big plays in the game against Columbus, but also, again, 2 games played, but right now they're 3rd in the NHL as a pair in expected goals for percentage. They had an 81.3% expected goals for percentage as a pair. That's an expected goals for of 1.3 and expected goals against of 0.3. So they are, with just 2 minutes, or 2 games underneath their belt, one of the best pairs in the NHL at the moment. I don't think you break that up. You let them play it out, and as long as they're hot, you keep those 2 guys on the ice. I do think that I agree with you that optically it's not a good idea to have your highest paid defenseman sitting in the press box. I let off with that, right? But at the same time, I also don't like it because he's such a leader in the locker room. I also don't like the optics of benching a leader, especially like a physicality leader, although Petry does replace the physicality. I do think that Hall's been playing good enough that I don't know if he's worthy of a scratch either. I think you just continue to play the defensemen that are playing the best. And Sherratt has, I don't want to rag on him too much, right, though? But, he's 16th out of 20 skaters at 5-on-5 in terms of expected goals for percentage. He's 47.89%, well under 50%. He hasn't necessarily been creating or preventing quality scoring chances. I mean, that being said, again, he brings the physical element. He brings grit to the lineup, and he's a leader in the locker room. So it's a hard decision nonetheless. But I do think right now I'm probably leaning Sherratt rather than Hall because, one, you've scratched every other defenseman, and every other defenseman that you've scratched has then played fairly decently. Justin Hall's expected goals for percentage, by the way, guys, is sitting at right now 58.82% at 5-on-5. So, I mean, he's been a pretty solid defenseman, even though he hasn't been like a flashy guy. And I just think that Gostisbehere and Maatta are too good to break up right now. So I right now I'd be leaning towards Sherratt. But as it comes down to deep pairs shaking out, like, yeah, Gostisbehere and Maatta might be the pair right now, but I don't think it's nearly like bona fide yet who's going to be with who for the rest of the season.
For sure, yeah, and I definitely agree with that part. I don't know, man. I think that it's going to be kind of a grab bag like every night. Like it truly is, and also like again, it's worth reiterating. They're clearly not afraid to go 7-11. So if that's like always on the table if they just don't want to scratch any of the defensemen. But I do agree with the sentiment that, you know, like if Maatta and Ghost are playing well lately, then like keep them together. I'm not saying it's going to be Maatta, right? Like I tend to lean Hall at the moment, but I don't think you can be. I don't know how to word this. Like I don't think you should be like too reactionary either. Like I don't think you should just like, oh, like, you know, the last game these were the 6 best guys. That's who we're gonna like play tonight. And I just think it's too early in the season to necessarily like set in stone. Again, this is more like big picture than anything else. But like, yeah, like this is a really long conversation for one night of like who's going to get scratched. Like, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's probably not that deep, and it's probably a third pair defenseman that's just going to get scratched, or they're just going to go 11-7 again. So yeah, I think Sherratt's certainly I think it's between Sherratt and Hall. But like Maatta still wouldn't surprise me on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's going to be, like you said, a grab bag. Oh my goodness. Grab bag.
There you go.
Lord above. Because, you know, we're trying our best to try and figure this out, and it's a great problem that the Red Wings have, that there's not a clear-cut option as a healthy scratch. And you bring up a good point. They kept the lines the same at practice, but they could also go 11-7 and scratch Zarnik. And then, you know, one center takes a second shift every now and again, or, you know, you scratch a winger like Fisher, and then you have your center play on the wing down low at some point. So it is a reality too, where you just run 7 defensemen. But right now, I'm just leaning towards Sherratt for this game, not permanently. I don't think that there is a permanent healthy scratch on this. Agreed. But what I do think will happen is you're going to hammer out your 2 pairs, and then eventually you're going to have it down to, okay, which of these bottom 3 guys on a nightly basis is going to be the scratch. Sure. So I don't think you'll have 5 guys rotating around all season long. I think at some point they're going to figure out who that second pair is. And right now, it's Gostisbehere and Maatta with how good they've been playing together, but that's only in 17 minutes of ice time together. So it's not like, well, it's great to see that they're third in expected goals for percentage, you know, in the NHL right now. That's on 17 minutes of ice time, while you have Riley and Brody with the Maple Leafs at 5th with 43 minutes. So, you know, sample size has a lot to do with it for sure, but they played great for 2 games straight, and I think they're just going to keep riding that hot hand.
Fine by me.
All right. Scotty, let's really briefly mention this because I don't care to have a whole conversation about this again. We already did a whole episode about this.
Oh, yeah. We already talked about it once. So.
But Frank Saravelli of Daily Faceoff wrote an article about Patrick Kane, about how he's not going to make a decision about what team to sign with until November. He said, these are the 3 teams to look out for. The Rangers, who we played with at the end of last season, the Sabres, which is his hometown, and then the Detroit Red Wings. So we're going to have the conversation real briefly like we did the other day, or a couple months ago, but I'm okay with not signing Patrick Kane. One, where on the offense are you going to slot him, especially on the wing? You have like no winger slots left on this. And I, honest to God, just don't think this isn't 2010 or 2013 or even 2015 Patrick Kane that you're getting anymore. This is post hip resurfacing surgery, not having played for like 6 months, Patrick Kane. Like, I don't think he'll be as bad as he was last season because he was fighting through an injury and in a lot of pain, but he's not going to be the Patrick Kane that a lot of people think he's going to be. I don't think that he's going to bring that much value to a roster pushing for the playoffs. I mean, I don't see it at his age with the surgery that he had being a very productive winger at the NHL level. I could eat my words. He could come back and be Patrick Kane, not 100-point guy all over again. But I just don't see that being reality, and I don't see that being a need that the Red Wings have right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're still lockstep there. We had this conversation much more in depth over the summer. So again, like, we don't need to spend 5-10 minutes on it. But yeah, I really am just lockstep with you. I don't see a overwhelming need to bring him in. We already talked about the team's depth. Now we'll see what the injury situation, I guess, like for the Wings looks like in whatever, a month or a few weeks when he's, like ready to start fielding more offers and is like a little bit closer to coming back. But like, he's still not like right around the corner. Like, it's still not like, oh, he's going to be playing like relatively soon. That's still down the road. And yeah, on top of that, like, I don't really see the need for the Wings to do that. And I agree with the production. I really just agree with everything you said.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take another quick break, and when we return, we will wrap up our conversation today with a preview of the Pittsburgh Penguins. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about the Sleeper app. Red Wings fans, you're going to love this app. Let's say it's the Stanley Cup Finals. You got Alex DeBrincat in his little office there in the left circle, just rifling home pucks. He scores a hat trick. You'll love to see that. And if you want to win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. These are all possible scenarios for the season. But to have a chance at winning big, you need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. As the official daily fantasy app for the Locked On NHL Network, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. With studs like Makar, McDavid, what's another Mick name in the NHL? Yeah, we got a Connor McKinnon. We got Connor Bedard. So you got a lot of guys. You got two Elias Petterssons, only one's a 100-point guy. You got tons of studs in the NHL, guys, is what the point I'm trying to get across. And all you need is pick more or less on stats for these stars. Choose your stat lines like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You heard me right. 100-time payout on Sleeper. So start paying attention to get your picks right so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKDOWNNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKDOWNNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Sleepers. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty. Let's move on to our preview of the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins are coming to LCA tonight, 7:30, because it's going to be on TNT. So out of the first 4 games, only 2 of which have been on local broadcast networks, which has been fantastic.
Crazy.
Love to see that.
TNT game, baby.
But the Penguins, 2-1, just like your Detroit Red Wings, Scotty. And it's exactly
not yours.
They're
my Detroit Red Wings, not yours.
Yes. Not mine. Yeah. They're a good hockey team still. Fringe playoff team. I think that they're a team much like the Red Wings in the same position, kind of on the fringes, but trajectory-wise, we talked about it last year. The Penguins are a team that's trending downwards. Like, this is Dubas. They hired Dubas to come in and try to keep that window open as long as possible. They traded for Erik Karlsson, an aging veteran who put up 100-plus points and won the Norris last year, to try and help them keep that window open. But, they're not the Penguins they used to be. But Evgeny Malkin, Sidney Crosby, Erik Karlsson are all still really good players. And guys like that, along with Jake Guentzel, are going to be the reason why they're going to be in the playoff hunt until the very end. Jake Guentzel has 6 points in 3 games played, 1 goal and 5 assists. Evgeny Malkin has 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points. Crosby has got 3 goals, 1 assist. Like, the guys who produce on that team are still producing, despite the fact that the team, even though they're aging and is trending downwards, I mean, they're going to stay in this race, for quite some time. Plus, they're getting goaltending help as well out of Tristan Jarry and Alex Nedeljkovic.
Absolutely. Alex Nedeljkovic, baby.
Nedeljkovic has 1 game played. He has a save percentage of .944. And Tristan Jarry has 2 games played and has a save percentage also of .944. So while this is an aging team and it's trending downwards over the last couple of years for them, they're not going to be a cakewalk. This is going to be a good game for the Detroit Red Wings. And I think another test to see exactly where this team is at.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that this is a big, like, this is still a big game. And I said it a lot going into the year, like, doesn't matter what time of year it is, all the games count the same. And this is a team that is believed to be in the same like tier as you, right? Like we're talking about a team, fringe playoff team is going to try their best to stay competitive for as long and as late into the season, going to make a playoff push late. Like this is what you're hopeful that you're in the same tier as. So if you can, especially at home, like if you can get a win here, goodness, my brain shut off. That's a really big momentum shifter as you head in to Ottawa this weekend. Like, I'm not trying to look ahead. Certainly, you got to play the games where they are. Pittsburgh's far too good to just like, oh, we're just going to focus on Ottawa and whatever happens, happens. But these next two games, to lump them in together are, I think, very, very good kind of like litmus tests on how good the Wings actually stack up against those teams that are in a similar boat of, high end outside the playoffs or low end in the playoff type of team.
Yeah. And I mean, we keep reiterating, right? Like it's early in the season. So if they lose, it's not the end of the world. Like you're going to lose hockey games. The team's not going to go 81-1 for the rest of the season, right?
I believe.
I believe as well. But like it is going to be a good indicator. You want to see where this team's at in these early games. You've got quite a few good teams. Like you play Columbus, not a great team. So you want the Red Wings to dominate. They did. You played Tampa Bay, who's still a good hockey team, but they don't have a good goalie. So you want to win that game and dominate that game. You won 6-4. You dominated the game, gave up too many odd man rushes. So Tampa Bay kept close. So now you're playing the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that you're probably going to be competing for a wild card spot within the Eastern Conference. So you're looking at this, you go, okay, well, this team is going to show us, where we're at. It's going to help us figure out if we're a step closer than we thought. Again, not the end of the world if you lose, right? It's going to be your fourth game of the season. But after that, you got the Ottawa Senators, and the Senators are two crucial divisional points. Another team that's trajectory is upwards like your own, and that beat you the heck up last year. And then right after that, the day after, you got Calgary, which is going to be a Western Conference playoff team as well. A team that you beat, you beat twice last year, but they were both really close games. I think 1-goal games. So this week, I mean, even outside the Pittsburgh Penguins game, we keep mentioning it, but you're going to have really good indicators of this team's direction in the first week and a half of the NHL season. Teams get hot, teams get cold, things can change in a flurry. But these next three games, I'm really excited to see how the Red Wings perform, because if they can continue to play like they did and continue to dominate the way they were, I mean, I'm not going to say start to believe after 7 games or whatever it's going to be by the end of the week, but you can say, okay, there's clearly progress being made. Let's see if they can make this a consistent feature, not just a hot streak.
For sure. No, I completely agree. What else? I mean, I fully expect Husso to be back in net.
He is. For this one. Yeah, Lalonde already confirmed.
Yeah, so there you go. Probably Husso in net for the next 2, yeah.
Unless he's absolutely dog water, then yeah. I mean, if he drops a fat steaming load in this game and the Red Wings get like shelled, then you might go to Reimer or Lyon. Probably Reimer, given how well he played against the Blue Jackets. But at some point, you got to work Lyon in a start too, unless you want to send him down on a conditioning stint. I don't necessarily know I can't remember the rules for conditioning stints, but I would also watch out this Penguins team.
Oh man, like where look at this November schedule. This is the Red Wings November. Devils, Lightning, Blue Jackets, Penguins, Sens, Flames, Kraken, Jets, Bruins, Islanders. Like where are your like slam dunk outside of Columbus, which obviously they already did? Where are your slam dunk like backup goalie games?
There are none.
Exactly.
The backup goalie games are whenever your starting goalie has either gets rocked the game before or has played like 5 consecutive and needs a break.
Right.
That's where they come in.
And so then December, you start off 2 or 3 games to start off December against the Habs and the Sharks. So like you have a little bit of, I guess, opportunity there if you can get through November pretty decently. But yeah, like this entire first month is honestly a fantastic. I just went from October to December, by the way. So just completely ignore what I just said. I thought we were in November. That was not good. We have that. What is happening? We end October with the schedule that I just listed out. Then the beginning of November is Panthers, Bruins, Rangers. Then you have Habs, Blue Jackets, then Sens again. That's the Europe game. Like, I mean, this is...
So you got a couple games right there, though, that you just listed that you could possibly work in a backup game if, like, things are going as you think they do.
November 9th and 11th, dude. That's almost a month from now. That's not like, oh, well, we'll just wait until then. Like, you're going to have to play backups before November 9th.
I don't know.
Right? Like, I mean, maybe...
This is why I'm glad it's not... That's why I'm glad it's not my decision to make.
Correct. Yeah,
I
I'm
would
just
know
saying, like, the playing of all three of these goalies is not going to be a cakewalk. So
no, absolutely not. That being said, Scotty, who you got to score the first goal for the Red Wings?
Oh, Michael Rasmussen for sure.
You taking my guy?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go off the board a little bit. Let's see who. I'm going to go Joe Veleno. He's been playing good lately. I think he's going to get rewarded with one.
Nice.
Joe Veleno on Alex Nedeljkovic. Assuming he starts.
Love it.
Let's go. All right. Any final thoughts? Anything we missed with the Penguins? Watch out for their special teams. They got a good power play. Some of the best players on the planet.
Yep.
Good test for your penalty kill.
Definitely a big test for the PK. Absolutely. No, I think that's it, man. We ball.
All right. We'll be back with a new episode recapping this one tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.